I think every economist says, yes, our current fiat-based financial system is going to crash, likelihood 100%. The big question is it this year, next year, in 10 years? No one really knows.
Welcome to another episode of Europreneur, the European podcast for EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. I'm your host, Neil Zavallo. And as always, I have the pleasure, the honor to spend some time and talk to some that are very close friends, some I'm just meeting for the first time, entrepreneurs that are doing unbelievably amazing things throughout Europe. And today I don't know what to say. I've been waiting to do this. I think the first time I asked you to do this interview was 6 months ago or something. And I said, but give me some time. I want to practice because I have a feeling that you and I will have a very interesting conversation.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. All right, looking forward.
Welcome, Frank Gessner. EO Berlin. How have you
Yes.
been? How's it going?
Yeah, Berlin is doing great. Here's the summer and everyone is enjoying, a beer outside. It's a good time of the year.
Summer is changing in Berlin?
No, it's still hot, still fine. It's still okay, kind of, yeah.
We have AC here in Israel. You're always welcome. You know that. Like, if you ever want to visit. So, but every time I have a guest, I'll ask them to do a short elevator pitch to talk about business, life, family. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So I'm Frank, living in Berlin, entrepreneur, currently building up my 10th company in different industries. Some of them went super well, some of them crashed. So as entrepreneurial life is, I'm happily married, have two already grown-up daughters, having their own life, career, life partners, and so on. Yeah, that's me.
How did you start? What was the first? Wait, you're originally from Berlin, born and raised?
No, I'm not in Berlin. I grew up in Eastern Germany, kind of the communism part of Germany. Unification came when I turned 20. I was at the army at this time, and then my parents couldn't sponsor me. I went to university, but 6 months after unification, I founded my first company just to get something to eat. And so at this time, the unemployment department had amazing budgets for bringing knowledge about computers to kind of whatever to nearly everyone which was employed, which was registered at the unemployment office. And I hired my co-students, received some money from an unemployment department, and I rented a room, run the shows. But a couple of months later, they required that the teachers must have a degree. And none of my teachers, since they were all students, had any degree or university degree. So I had to shut down this again. So that was my first company. Went on for almost 2 years.
You did that for 2 years?
I did this for 2 years. Yeah.
Interesting. Wait, so what was the vibe in those days between, how was it growing up? And
I grew up in kind of the communism system. As a kid, as a teenager, you don't really care. You're more interested in the girls than in politics. And then, in order to go to university, you had to kind of voluntarily apply to go for at least 3 years to the army, and which I did as well. And so then, while I was at the army, I had unification came, and then I decided to go for computer science.
Wait, how did you start with computers in the army?
Well, to be honest, I hated the army from day one, and after a couple of weeks where we were robbing through the fields and to the forest, and kind of all this shitty stuff you do when you start at the boot camp, an officer were crying at us, who has knowledge with computers, and I said, me. but I have not seen a computer, not even from distance. I have not even seen one. I didn't even know whether there are different ones, and I had zero knowledge. I grew up. I mean, it's GDR. There were no computers, right? And and he ordered me to join him, and then we went to a lab, and I saw a package, and on this package was KC85/2. This was written on this. And I asked him, what type of computer is this? And he said he has no idea. And I said, maybe it's a KC85/2. And we unpacked the computer, and it was a KC85/2. And I was considered as the expert. And was, out of the army, or not out of the army, but I didn't have to go to the boot camp anymore. I was just assigned to this lab and had to get the thing running and connected to a MiG-21 cabin, and I had a quite okay time, so which also led to study computer science afterwards. But running a company or kind of founding a company after 6 months without having a zero knowledge about what the hell is economy, what is bookkeeping, what is financials. I mean, the capitalists were always kind of the enemy, right? So I now became one by myself and just got started.
Would you consider the first company doing 2 years and then the reason you had to shut down had nothing to do with your management style or the business proposition? Would you consider that a success or a fail?
At this time, I mean, I employed a dozen of my students. I mean, didn't employ them. I just shared the income with them. So I was organizing. I did the management, or did the kind of the booking and the planning and the conversations and so on, and they ran the shows in the classrooms. However, it didn't really feel like a company. It was more like, there is a good budget. Let's go to this pocket and earn as much as we can. And then it was an easy game, more or less. The first real company started when since studying computer science, I was obviously early in what's today known as internet. At this time, it was kind of different independent networks, also on different protocols. Later on, they agreed on so-called TCP/IP. So I was one of the early users in '92, and out of this, and out of an idea of a friend of mine, I developed the first web shop in the world. So the first time someone could purchase anything over the internet was developed by me. It was kind of computer articles. And out of this, over time, we realized that maybe the software is more valuable than whatever the revenue you might have over running these web shops. It's at this time only whatever university guys or kind of nerds like us were even in the internet, right? So there was no big commercial potential. So we used the software and tried to say, there are so many retailers out there. Maybe we can give them the software and they can, at this time, naively, we thought that the small retailer around the corner can use the internet to have global business. This was kind of the democratize retail somehow. This was kind of the vision. So, and then we, founded a company. It's called Intershop. We were the first German company receiving venture capital. And this, when these guys were ringing at our door, we thought, well, I want to give her 3 million Deutschmarks without getting any guarantees from us, or it must be criminals. So, however, it was. Then we went to the Neumarkt, Nasdaq, had a peak valuation of 13 billion. So it was a good time. So this was the first larger company I built.
And you ended up using that, servicing other websites with that platform, or building it yourself?
No, we developed a standard software for e-commerce, on maybe one of the first larger standard softwares, kind of retailers in the beginning, small retailers, then later the biggest retailers in the world, like whatever, AOL or Chibo, Quelle, Time Warner.
So you were leading, you're number one in raising, you were number one in the concept, you were number one in turning that into a software you can sell and so on. Why didn't you become like the German Amazon or something?
Yeah,
What's the
we were since kind of we decided to go for the tech way. Kind of we wanted to sell the software, not use the software ourselves. Kind of from my DNA and also the DNA of our co-founders, we are less kind of retail driven or this shopping or commerce. This is not our mail order as it was called at this time.
yeah
We are tech. We provide tech and we enable with tech. We enable these guys and being early continued through all the companies. I love to be in early stages when markets get flipped upside down, when things are changing, when the other side fights back. This is where I want to be. So sometimes it's more wiser to be second or third generation, since you earn what the first movers have
yeah
already reached. Kind of the early bird is not so often winning, but sometimes yes, sometimes not. So sometimes much easier not kind of to be the second or the third, not the first. I love to be the first. I love be kind of early on. Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting thing to know after doing so much, to know that it's still something that drives you. But I have a question about two different situations, because I'm not sure how that felt in those days. One is, can you give me a sense of that feeling, that moment when you guys saw that the purchase went through, the first purchase? How did that feel?
We kind of There was one founder coming from West Germany, but he was more or less kind of initially he was very far away from the business. So all the others were growing up in East Germany. This was the first company. Um, we won the CeBIT prize, which is kind of the largest computer exhibition. Venture capital, big money came in. Then we went to the US. This is It was like riding the tiger. If we would have known what we are doing, we would not have done it. Kind of if we would know what complexity and difficulties and challenges we would face. I think one of the success reasons is that we were, one of the members of our board of directors said it once, that we were wild, blind, and just kind of naive.
Yeah, so I'm asking about that naive. That moment was when you do the first protocol and it works, and you can actually. There's a. I assume there was a feeling you can achieve everything. That winning moment at the first time that works, right?
It was No, I think we were always hungry and worried. So, okay, this went through, or we got these things, but what is if they cancel the contract afterwards, or what is if this, or it was always kind of, at least for me, oh, we are not good enough. I mean,
Crazy.
we didn't study in Harvard, since we had no idea where the hell Harvard is located. So I mean, we grew up in East Germany. we, uh, we,
It's
we have no
interesting.
clue how this stuff,
You,
right?
I imagine in my mind the way I imagine it is three nerds sitting, and in those days when the internet was connecting, right, and it had that noise of, and then suddenly the transaction went through, and you guys go crazy, and then the
Yeah,
next scene is you three sitting in a pub or in a bar somewhere in Berlin and saying we're
yeah,
going to change the world.
yeah,
This is how I'm
absolutely.
mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. It was sometimes as well. From four people in the beginning, 3 years later, we were 1,500 in 18 countries. It, kind of, it feels like but you just do this. And it also shows, or kind of looking back, obviously there's always a lot of luck also included, right? So I think if you would be 10 times smarter than we are, wrong timing or wrong market situations or so, the situation would be different. um, but it also shows that everyone can do this. Kind of there is no need to have whatever parents that brought you into this, or a certain university degree, or you have studied this and this, or you have the networks or the connections or the vitamin B, as we call it, right? Kind of
Yeah.
everyone can go ahead and can also run something that becomes great, and that becomes also, at this time, East German economy was very in trouble. One company after the other had to close down. Millions of people become unemployed, and the Western Germany guys were the successful ones, and the East German guys were the losers. At least, kind of that how it felt for many, especially the ones in a little bit older age. And then there was a new company, our company, in the press, in the news, right, with this big success of an IPO, and then it's a Nasdaq list. It was also, I mean, of course, I mean, we also made our fortune financially, but there was also an obligation to have this successful for the region and for the people around us. Kind of we wanted to prove that there are also good stories in this part. I mean, it's 30 years ago, right? But
Yeah.
it was
No, but
the starting.
so you were famous in those days, like you're the pride of East Germany. People were like,
Yeah,
these guys
I
made
mean,
it.
first kind of there were other kind of the CEO was Stefan Scharnbach. He was always the front man. He was obviously the known one. Um, and and obviously this was it's a team effort, right? Kind of you this is not a single man show. So,
So I
but
have
yeah.
I have one last question about that, and then I want to keep going. But it's intriguing to me. You mentioned that you know that you want to do sell the software. This is where you want to be, and you want to lead the market. Sometimes we find ourselves in a predicament where we don't know where to go, right or left. Can you take us through that was the process of the four of you sitting there and saying, no, this is who we are. We need to sell the software and not be the real people who do commerce or inventory or stuff like that. Um, is that an easy discussion? Does it take days, months? Because sometimes we get stuck on these things.
I know. And as I said in the beginning, I have three daughters, and when I taught them something, was that it's it's always much harder to find out what you want than to reach it, right? Kind of to find, since everything has advantages and disadvantages, it's so hard to find out what you want. But what you want, once you know, doors get open, and it just happens. But to find out what you want is a difficult part. But it's only true if you have options, right? At this time, developing software was something we know how to do this, right? Building up a retail, or building up or do also commercial stuff, or even finding someone who can bring us the experience, kind of buying the knowledge, was not an option. I mean, this was the only option we had, right? So and then, I mean, we had to find out how the hell we do software sales, which is its own business. But in the beginning, we said, you know what, internet is coming. We have a software, so there will be a demand. This was our dream. Obviously, kind of selling software is a hard business, which we had to learn.
So
Um,
the lack of options sometimes is a good way to move forward.
yeah, and not to. Um, I mean, you also, in the other companies we might wanna talk about later on, you always have tons of directions and options, and you can do market studies about whatever potentials or growth predictions or others. Um, the tendency to move too early into something appears to be less risky than to overthink and to delay and to and this is not about also the market. It's also about you. Kind of, if you have a passion for something, it will be successful. If you feel, well, that's not really. I mean, it might be the bigger market, but it's not mine. Then you, as an entrepreneur, you don't feel well, and then you are not so successful. I believe. So
I,
do your
I,
stuff, and do what you dream of, and it will become successful. right?
First of all, I hear you speak, and I'm circulating the ideas in my head, and I completely agree because I can feel what it means for me. So thank you for that. And you're on the top of the world, Nasdaq, the biggest company. You've done what you wanted. You feel proud. Then what? You say, fuck it, I'll do it
No, no,
again.
no, no. Then the new economy crashed.
Which
The
years?
This was 2000, early 2000. Then the economy crashed. Intershop is one of the few companies still existing today, so we survived. And I stayed with the company until they were profitable in 2004. And then, um,
You're the
you know,
CEO during the crash.
no, I was in the tech. I was running tech,
CTO.
the CTO, in the founder team. So running all tech and customer service and this type of stuff. Um, and So, and then, this was 2004 was already after 10 years being with the company. I've seen that um, that the web shops, the front offices, this became kind of commodity. There were many players out there, right? It's also kind of not so complicated technically, but the back office systems, kind of the order management systems, right? Kind of this was, Stone Age with the green screens, with the IBM set systems and RS 400 systems, and this was so whatever the web shops wanted. The back office systems couldn't process this, right? And then this was also the time where this multi-channel came up, so that retailers wanted to have kind of a similar user experience in the stores as well as online, and it kind of to synchronize this. So I really saw this, that in all the projects we implemented, the back office systems were the limitations, not our web shops. The back office systems were the limitations. So I founded a new company, developing a new back office system for e-commerce called Alea, and was running this for 5 years. Then could sell my shares. The company went okay. It was not a super exit. It was okay.
Why?
Um, um,
Why wasn't it?
first, first, also I think this is also easily to underestimate the complexity of these back office systems. So we had close to 300 business processes that we had to implement, complex business processes. Um, there were issues in the founder team. There were 2008, the financial kind of, we had the financial crisis. Also, all VCs closed doors or closed their pockets. So kind of there were three more financing round planned, and we had to go to market much easier. There were tons of problems. And when companies fail, or I mean, Alea did not fail, but it was not a big success. Usually, kind of when companies do not meet expectations, it's not it's not so often that there is a single reason. Usually, it's a whole bunch of reasons. Um, this
I have a
was, yeah.
question. You've survived or been involved or heavily involved in companies during two major crashes. So the dot-com bubble, and then the real estate and so on. And I think a lot of people today that are building companies or thinking about, there's a joke where they don't know what's happening. They'll cry about not getting enough likes. And you
Right.
went through can you share one or two like things that we need to kind of understand the magnitude of what happens?
So in all of my entrepreneurial or in all of my companies I've started or I built up, there are awesome times, right, where everything's went well and you feel like a hero and the smartest kid on the earth, and you are just genius, and everyone around you is applauding. And then there are also times where I feel like I'm the dumbest. I'm that's the way it is, and it can be um, circumstances you cannot influence, like the crashes you described or the market changes you described, but it can be also homegrown issues, right? That whatever you fuck up with the customer, or your co-founder team is not performing or is not harmonized enough, or whatever, right? The what helps in this situation is to have a strong why, to a why that is bigger than the company. Something like, you either want to solve a certain problem, and even if this company is not successful, then that the next company will, since you're really passionate about the problem, or you're privileged to work together in a team where you say, well, the team is, or my co-founders or whoever is what gives me energy. And if this play is not the right one for us, then maybe it's the next one. But I definitely want to work together with these guys, kind of having something bigger than the company, right? Either a purpose or a good motivation or whatever. And also having, that's also something I learned with EO, having core values and life missions that's much bigger than the current company. All through at this age, it feels like the company is 100% of life, right? No, there's so much more, and to fuck up your family situation or your marriage or your kids, that's something you can never really fix. A not so successful project or company founding is but in the end, it's come up with the next one.
I wonder how many people would listen to it. They're stressed. They have to do as much as they can. They have to push. Everything feels so heavy, and then they listen to this and they're like, okay, maybe I can let off a little bit of steam. Maybe I can rest a little bit. Maybe I can spend some time with my family. And I completely agree. I remember the years where I couldn't do anything except I have to do this and that, and it didn't really make any difference. At the end, if we didn't balance. And I think also you and I within EO, we are learning how to find our balance and spending more time and things. What is having 10 companies is interesting. I own my own agency. I'm 100% owner, but I have bars. And in the bars, in some cases, we have 9 partners. And I've had more than a few bars that I've been a partner in. Very different to run your own business and running a bar with 9 other people who have their own opinions. What are some of the traits you look at before you make a decision to become a co-founder with other people? What are the things you look for in a co-founder with you?
I think it's as seldom and a great luck. I mean, it's like finding a life partner, right? You really love and you really can go along with for a longer period of time. It's, what is the percentage of successful couples that are really, it's whatever, I don't know the statistics, 3%, 5% or so. It's not much, right? Kind of, there are many marriages and many whatever long running relationships, but the ones where really kind of they really have the feeling they met forever, right? They really fit in, when you look for a girlfriend, wife, or a husband, that's so seldom. And the same is with co-founders. And obviously kind of like before you get married, you really wanna spend some time together, which is obviously also an advice I can give finding co-founders. So before you really found the company, you should spend some time together. But as long as the sun is shining, everyone looks great, right? Especially in business. As long as the tide lifts every ship, and if the market is great and the money comes in and the first revenue comes and so on, I mean, everything looks great, and your co-founder is your best friend, right? And you go even for a beer. But when when the situation becomes cloudy and cold and windy and then as success has so many fathers, that the opposite
Yeah,
is always the other one, right? So it's not me; it was the other, and and
listen,
and yeah,
I think you just gave me an idea. If you want to split the business, I'm in. Let's do you know how you go. Well, you've been married for a long time, so I'll share my experience with you here. But you go on dates and stuff, everything's fine, and then you go on that first weekend, and it's not exactly as you pictured it, and you start seeing things you didn't see before, right? Or before you start moving in together, before you actually move in together, and you see different things, and you're like, I'm not sure about this. So my idea, let's build Tinder for co-founders. You match them and they go on a weekend and it's a surprise. They might go to like a luxury thing and then do hikes, or they might go and spend a weekend in a tent. And
yeah,
then they see how people handle the different situations.
yeah, definitely, especially if you bring them into challenging situations. Um, Kind of into situations where things fuck up, or they have to sleep outside in the whatever, right, since the car is
Or one
accidentally
one has to
broken.
sleep outside, but one sits in a comfortable bed.
So
Then
something
you
like this.
see, right? Because everybody wants to be the CEO. Everybody wants the credit.
Yeah,
What do you think
so
about titles?
uh,
CEO, CTO, is that important in the companies? Is that
I never cared. um, I never cared. The It's more, I think it's more important um, to allow yourself to do what you want, even if you would not get paid for it.
mm,
Kind of the big privilege of running your own company is that you have a certain degree of freedom, and many bring themselves into situations where this degree disappears, since whatever financial or business restrictions, or shareholder limitations, or whatever, right? Kind of as long as um, many entrepreneurs seek financial independence with their exits they're looking for. And financial independence doesn't really mean for me having a certain amount on my bank account, right, where they can argue, is this whatever 100,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million, what is the right number? Giving inflation, this number might even, the purchasing power might even be much less in 10 years than it is today. Even the number look good. Financial independence means for me to, that every major decision you have to make in life is not driven by financial needs, right? Like whom you married, in which country you live, whether your kids can go to school or university, whether you continue with your current business or not. Financial independence means that you have the ability to decide, and to be, and as an entrepreneur, I want to be on the driver's seat of my life. And this is, I think, the biggest privilege you have as an entrepreneur, that you can be on the driver's seat on your life. And most people, if I would ask them, do you want to be on the driver's seat of your life, they would say yes, and 98% lie. They don't want to be,
yeah,
since this has a lot of disadvantage. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of, no one tells you what's right or what's wrong, and every decision you earn the results, and the results can be pleasant and not pleasant.
I agree. Yeah, for me, being able to take 10 days off and say I'm out because I want to finish my next book was unbelievable. And I saw someone, I don't remember if it was a tweet or some sort of a post where someone said, for me, being successful is not just about the money; it's more so about deciding what I want to put in the calendar or not,
Yeah,
and then deciding my own time. And I like that concept because then you really don't need a lot of money. You can do a lot of
yeah,
things. And I think if we're driven just by money, then, as you said, a million, 10 million, 100, how much is enough? What's the
yeah,
point? And also, you'll never win.
yeah, yeah,
There's
and
no,
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
I think a why defines what we want to, when we stop or when we enjoy what we've achieved. And then we can just double down on doing more of this, which is interesting. Um, what would the next, pick a company you really like that didn't succeed? If you thought it was going to be epic.
Um, so there was a kind of, after after this, when I sold this e-commerce back office company, I had a 2-year sabbatical. I went to Thailand also. The first year I was just traveling around with my wife, and then the second year we spent in Thailand. So I even speak some Thai, and we did an ecological and social project in the mountains of the Golden Triangle in the north of Thailand. And then coming back, I said, what, the next thing is venture capital, I want to be at the other side of the table. So let's build up I built up 2 different venture capital plays, and also one in Berlin, and over time I realized at first something I also totally underestimated is venture capital is really a tough business. I mean, it's really, really tough. Kind of a couple of wrong decisions and you're out of the game. Kind of you can't raise your second fund. And however, this was not a failure. It was a super successful play. And we were early contributors or investors to Delivery Hero, which is a food delivery platform, worldwide food delivery platform.
Which one?
And Delivery Hero, which is
okay, small company.
Small company.
Okay, yeah.
And they asked me, since they had some tech problems, and they asked me whether I should come operational in and take over tech responsibility on a global scale. The tech team at this time were around 25 people or so, and then I grew this to 200 in 75 countries, and then we had my second IPO in 2016, which was I think the IPO was at 25 billion, and then I run a company. I said, what I'm really good at is maybe my strongest talent is finding the right tech people. Is not the tech itself, but maybe my biggest talent is that I can attract people around me that are really good tech people. And that I can identify a less good, or that I can differentiate a less good developer from a good developer. And then I also have seen that the developers, they dictate the employment market. They can literally choose, with whom they wanna play. And I founded a company together with another EO guy, where the companies applied at the candidates. This was the software developer and IT recruiting platforms, but the companies applied for the developers and not the way around. So this went also on occasion until Corona, where every company has stopped hiring and so on. This company is now under quite some trouble, and let's see whether they will make it or not. I'm out of this company for 4 years now, but this company is under trouble. But what I said is, and I'm currently in crypto. I'm currently building financial products and services for crypto asset management. It's my biggest company.
You're talking about Invao.
Invao, that's my current company. I also have a real estate company that's quite successful, where we build or we buy old buildings and then do from living to a commercial use and all the way around, or kind of the project development real estate company.
I have 2 questions. Wait, 2 questions. One, I love the concept about you building the team around you, not necessarily the tech. But my question is a personal one. You invest in a company, they say, hey, everything's going well, join us on the tech side. You go to your wife and you say, hey, I'm going to join that roller coaster once again. Like, I'm out. I need to do this. Is this a decision you make together? Is this to invest that time?
Yeah. Um, I mean, obviously, I involve her since I really listen to her advice. But the way it operates is, uh, I first I have to be convinced myself, right? So, and then if I'm convinced myself, I ask her whether we want to go this together. Um, but in the end, I have to, and she accepts this. She's okay. And so far she was okay with every business decision I had so far. And I think without her, most of the stuff would also not be as successful as it went.
And my second part of the question is, do you still make investments like you used to before? Are you still under a fund or as an angel investor?
Yeah, I've done in my life many dozens business angel investments. The last two, 3 years, I only made one transaction since the kind of the VC market or the kind of the business angel or kind of early stage investment market became very, very difficult. So valuations, kind of investment valuations went to the roof, exit valuations went down. So kind of the multiples were less. And on the other side, spending the money in crypto was a much easier and more liquid stream of attractive investment. So kind of there was a really good alternative which has a similar risk profile, but is much more liquid and much more. It's kind of if you if you if you're kind of investing in the early stage of a company means you're normally locked for 5, 7, 8 years, right? Until kind of there might be secondary options where you can sell your shares, but normally not to an attractive price. So you have to wait until there is an exit with this company. With crypto, not only that the potential can be as big, but also it's you can rebalance within a minute, right? Kind of this that's more attractive. So the majority of money went into this market. Yeah.
Yeah, I made my first investment as an angel investor this year, and it was interesting. I saw the downfall of crypto as a chance, an opportunity, and I've been in that industry on the marketing side since, let's say, beginning of 2016. And a friend of mine's working on a project, and I saw an opportunity, and I like what they're doing, and I said, I'm in. And he said, okay, let's review everything. And I said, oh, I don't care. This is the amount. This is I'm in. And he says, you don't care. I said, no, for me, it's like an MBA. It's I just made my first investment. These are the people involved, and I can say I made an investment with them. Maybe in 5, 7, 8 years, I might see the money, which is nice.
Yeah.
But this is a beginning of something. And it's interesting for me. I'm noticing that I'm now looking to build a portfolio of investments where I have an added value of marketing, which is what
Yeah.
I do, as you know. So you have a lot of advantages, even in a market where things are very exploding in terms of valuations and stuff. Your ability and your brand and everything, I assume people flock to meet you and get the chance to invest with you, I assume. So is
Yeah.
that what would you give advice to, I don't know, EO members or others that are now listening and thinking about starting to make those investments? And I would love to learn as well.
So kind of normally the best investments are the ones you beg for, right? Kind of if they beg for you, then it's difficult, right? Kind of the ones that are already oversubscribed or which will be, and then I also made a couple of investments in industries I have no clue about, where I do not know the dynamics, the market players, where where I had an outside view only, and beside one investment, it's luckily successful. All the others failed to 100%. And um, having kind of if you have a competitive advantage, like you know the industry, or you know certain players, or you can bring added value, or you know the founding team, and you know these are really smart guys and you can trust them. I mean, this is the competitive advantage of an investor, right? The more early stage you go, kind of obviously the higher the chance, but also the higher the risk. Over time, I increase the stage companies have to have had already reached before I go investing, like 100K monthly revenue, or kind of this kind of having the company already in a certain revenue level. 100K was my number, certainly depending on industry, but if a company
148 monthly MRR.
monthly kind of 100K monthly revenue was, I mean, it certainly could be also 50 or 200 depending on the industry, but that there is already kind of a certain proof of concept, or product market fit or customer acceptance level, which obviously also brings you then into a higher valuation in the next financing round, right? But kind of the risk reward ratio looks a little bit more attractive than going to into the early stage PowerPoint only stage, where there is a big vision and there is a business plan graph going from the left upper corner to the right, the left lower corner to the right upper corner, kind of this typical one, or the hockey stick predictions. So now something like what is the what are the customer acquisition costs? What's the customer lifetime value? What is the, you have already some KPIs you can look at and can compare to other KPIs. And going a little bit later stage is something I like to do now, unless I'm really fascinated about an idea.
Interesting. Would you say, moving forward, would you start another company from scratch? Like full time, 100%, only doing that?
No, I think that's
You're done.
no. I now come into a phase of life where I definitely want to continue to be engaged and run, and also in business. Not only I've also kind of foundations and stuff like this, but I do stuff. But I really want to also be engaged in business, but not necessarily in a operational CEO, kind of more in a non-executive role, where where I bring value to the CEO instead of being the CEO myself. I think that makes more sense.
Maybe a definition could be the Italian consigliere. You sit next to and you advise but so business has changed quite a lot over the last 25 years that you've been doing business, right? You used to go to, share meeting, investor meetings would be held in a hall and people would stand outside in a payphone to buy shares. And emails. There's so many things that changed over those years. How different is it? And I know it sounds crazy, like you've done so much in 3 decades.
Yeah. I think it's always difficult. It's always challenging. It's always fun. It's always, what I said kind of is, running a business just for the business is really hard. But if you have something bigger, something you really kind of you want to solve something, you want to change an industry, you want to, or you believe kind of, we have still a super bullish belief in crypto. Although there is, many, especially kind of retail investors currently, suffer a collective depression. I'm still super bullish, and it totally makes sense to me, and the services I offer or the companies I run, that might change, but the overall kind of the why, the passion, the kind of my interest. So this is and if this, as long as this is bigger then I'm very flexible with the way I do it or with whom I do it.
Yeah, I I feel this is in no way an investment advice, but I have a feeling that same as every other wave we've seen in crypto, even now we're starting to see the slow change. Or, I don't know, ether doubling and things are happening, and suddenly there's going to be a tidal wave, in my opinion. So I think being bullish on that is just a matter of time, in my opinion. And you and I have discussed previously about crypto and different variations. And yeah, I think the adoption of technology is here, right? And just the next level, and then the next level. So it's always interesting. Do you think the technology behind crypto is going to be the next layer of development? If we're talking about Web3 and other stuff, will that be the next phase of what we see?
Well, if you speak about crypto, you speak about blockchain-based tokens or so, right? And then you have
Yeah,
three
yeah,
types. You have currency, which is then a discussion about how our financial system is going, whether it's crashing or not. Then you have all these kind of utilities or commodities or kind of blockchain-based applications. And then you have securities, which continue to be securities, although they are tokenized, right?
yeah.
Um, um, I think every economist says, yes, our current fiat-based financial system is going to crash, likelihood 100%. The big question is it this year, next year, in 10 years? No one really knows, how this is going and living in Europe, the euro gets weaker and weaker. It might be split in a North and a South euro, or there will be whatever, a new kind of a successor of the euro. No one really knows. Um, and I think, and also the fiat system becomes digital. So we will have kind of government, um, or central bank digital currencies, and we have private money, kind of private digital currencies, decentralized ones like the bitcoins and all these others. And I think there will be a coexistence long term, and there will be a kind of a positive competition for trust, and this will be good for both sides, right? Crypto will enjoy more regulations, and I think regulations is good, and the central bank currencies will get kind of natural limitations there in money printing, in the things they can do with it, since there is always kind of a competition around the corner. And if everything is digital anyway, it's the same wallet. Kind of with the click, you switch from one coin to the other. So long term, I rather see a coexistence. Um, with
I
the
believe, by the way, if you look at the one currency, if you had one currency and everybody would pay 7% tax and there was no cash, the world would look different.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think
yeah,
it's going to
absolutely.
be interesting to see where it might go, right?
So, and we see all these kind of blockchain-based apps, like in the health industry, in micropayment, media industry, kind of where blockchain has so many supply chain, has so many use cases. Um, these applications come, right, and people will not even notice that there is a blockchain below. They will just use the application. They will use kind of for to buy an apartment somewhere, or to track their health data and bring and use them as a doctor somewhere. That this is blockchain based, it totally makes sense to have this blockchain based, is something they will not even notice, but they will see the advantages, and over time, then also these projects will increase in value. The more usage, the more value is being generated. And I have a tech background, and I think we tech people, we tend to overestimate how fast the adoption is, right? So kind of 2 years is nothing, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years is nothing, but we all also tend to underestimate what happened in 10 years, right? In 10 years, really big changes, even whole industries can disappear. This is so. I
Yeah.
think therefore
Do you
it's
know
good. yeah,
you know Leonidas from EO Greece, right?
yeah,
From
absolutely,
Athens.
absolutely,
So
absolutely. He's a great
so
guy.
there,
Yeah,
yeah. So I interviewed him, and we also had a long dinner in Santorini when we were there, all of us together, and
okay, yeah,
they're building a platform. So he works with a shipping yard, and
yeah,
they work
yeah,
with huge ships, repairs, and everything. And putting on the blockchain everything to do with the repairs and the
yeah,
spare parts is taking a whole industry that's been doing the same things for 100 years on a piece of paper or on an Excel sheet at best, transferring that, and suddenly we all know where that spare part came from, how long
yeah,
it lasted,
yeah,
which company, and everything. Now take that to the automotive industry. I know I can buy for my motorbike. I can buy a part. I can buy some sort of a part which no one knows where it came from. Everything changes. Suddenly, it's harder to steal. Suddenly, we know which companies really do last and how. And
yeah.
so, I think that'd be interesting to see. I think there's so many different applications that we must go to. First of all, to improve the way of living, but also give other people the opportunity, I think, for a better life.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And this will come, and this is also fascinating. And I love to be in these early stages. Also, see how crypto is influencing the financial markets. Doing a little bit more clever than just buying some bitcoins and ethers. Doing kind of real asset management, downside protection, hedging. This is kind of doing professional financial service on this nerdy asset class. This is what kind of bring
Yeah.
it from the nerds to the adults. This really fascinating.
It's listen, we're running up to almost an hour. So before we leave, I'm going to ask you to, at one point, join us. I'm going to arrange a talk about crypto from different people who do crypto within EO Europe, and we'll find 4 or 5 people. And I would love to facilitate, and I have a feeling it will be very interesting to hear you guys talk. And I'm going to ask you some last words, some advice before we wrap up, something you want to share with us, because I had an amazing time. I can't believe it's been an hour.
Well, I'm not really sure whether I'm in the situation to give advice. I was invited to an event in Austria, um, in a in a church. Whatever, there were 11 Nobel Prize winners together, and the library, the head of library, in this church. Um, they asked us to write on a page what we have learned in life and what is our wisdom in life, right? Kind of, it's a library with books from the 12th century, and he wanted to have this book in the library. So there was a single piece of paper in my room, and I was asked to write a single sentence on this piece of paper, right? So I was really stressed, since, I mean, this book goes into kind of a famous library, and I'm you can't write something funny on this, right? And 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 I just then I was thought, what is my learning, what is my conclusion about all this, riding the tiger and doing so much. And I just wrote, true joy is never easy. Kind of, it's kind of, once you leave your comfort zone, either it's in business or in vocation or in kind of, different things happen, and the true joy comes. Kind of, the going the easy way has never brought me much. Um, the the Sometimes even saying yes to something, I have no idea what the hell it is, and just doing this, like an interview with Nia, right? So just do it, and go ahead, right?
Yeah,
And then things come.
I love it. You made me think. First of all, I would love to go to that church. I don't know if they let Jewish people put their sentence, but if they would, um, I think.
It's an abbey, directly in the middle, between Graz and Vienna, and it was a
Amazing.
beautiful area. Yeah. However, but yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, there's two things, but if I had to pick one, is everything bad that happens turns out to be one of the most interesting stories you
yeah,
have to
yeah,
tell later.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So
There's always something good in the bed. Yeah,
yeah, once I learned that every bad thing can be turned into a good story, just a perspective of time,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
with
Gives us
that,
hope, and I think we entrepreneurs we need hope.
always, always, Frank, I want to
Always.
say a huge thank you.
Hey, thank you,
It's
man.
been a pleasure. Had I had been waiting for this for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. It was fantastic.
so I'm going to wrap up. And people, if you've listened, watched, if you've been with us, if you want anything, need anything, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. Um, and yeah, I'm wrapping up. I think this is like almost 20th episode of the EOpreneur. Go to the website. There's articles and stories and different things. If you're thinking about joining, feel free. We've just opened the applications for the waiting list for EO Europe. And yeah, we'll keep in touch, and I'll see you guys later. Frank, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, man.